Welcome to the Leadership Exposé podcast. This podcast is for purpose-driven leaders at diverse levels and organizations around the world who are seeking to scale and transform their leadership, to level up their business, and to create an impact in the lives of people all around them. Business and boardroom topics, trends, innovation, transformation, and the intersection with leadership is the focus. We enable success. I'm your host, Stephen Paul. In this episode, we meet Dr. Makida Bey, a global award-winning anxiety therapist and coach, amongst other things. She has worked with Fortune 100 companies, helped thousands of people maximize their authentic selves, balance their priorities, and overcome their anxiety with outstanding results. We'll hear about this and how she is making a difference in this space. Dr. Makida, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm trying to stay warm. It's a little chilly here now. Fall area, fall weather, so of course. How are you?
It's the start of fall. Yeah, I've been saying the same thing. Here in the UK, we're almost experiencing winter. It's coming down into 10 degrees or in the single digit figures at night. But Dr. McKinney, we just just before we started the podcast, we exchanged where we're based. Would you like to share where you're based?
Sure. So I'm in what's called the DMV area of the United States. DMV stands for DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So basically around the capital area. And so, yeah, I mean, I've been here since I graduated from college.
Awesome.
For a while, yeah.
Awesome. So we're keen to hear about you, Dr. Makida. Tell us briefly about your personal and your professional journey. How did it all intersect? Where did it all begin?
Sure. Well, I've always been really in tune with people and how people feel and think and see the world. And at first, when I was growing up, I thought it was a detriment because it was too much input, too much sensory, information coming in at once. And I've since been able to hone that skill into something that works for me and, is able to help other people as well. I started off really wanting to go to law school. That was my actual plan. I started off as a psych major and wanted to be a pre-law minor because I really loved how the law works and really helping people. And really thought that I would go into advocacy work. But then I interned at the district attorney's office in upstate New York and found out that was not what I wanted to do. And I know it was only criminal justice and there are different types of law, but I just knew that this was not the way in which I wanted to help people. You can help people, certainly, but it was not the way in which I wanted to do it. And so I began my journey to continue on with psychology. Went and got my master's in it, did some work in the hospital side and hospital setting, working with mostly dually diagnosed individuals, children and families, as well as adults. But then I took a bit of a turn. I decided I wanted to try my hand in what kind of fell into my lap, try my hand with training and development side of the business. And I found out I loved it. I love working with people and teaching them all the things that I've learned, but also helping them to learn that skill so that they can go forward and work in the workplace, doing different types of things that will be able to help the workplace and build that up. So I did that for 4 years. I loved it. That was when I worked with that Fortune 100 company. It was an amazing experience. I really enjoyed it. That actually springboarded me on to doing some management consulting. So again, away from psychology, but it also helped me to learn a little bit more about how to deal with larger organizations. And we were a government contractor too, so working with the government and different systems. And I worked with some really, really smart people who did a lot of different things. It was just an amazing experience. But all that led me back to psychology because I found that after a while, I really just missed talking to people and just connecting with them in that way. And I found myself trying to do that with my coworkers, and that doesn't work. I need to be able to do that as a profession. So I circled back into psychology, decided to get my doctorate in clinical psychology, and really have not looked back since.
Yeah. So is it a fair assessment to say that you're working with both organizations as well as with individuals in the space of psychology and anything
Yes.
broader related to it?
Hmm.
Okay, wonderful.
Because right now, go ahead.
Yeah. So how do you position yourself? What makes you different in terms of how you're positioning yourself with organizations and individuals in this particular space?
So I specialize particularly in anxiety. And so, as you can see from my background, I work with a lot of different people in different settings within different types of organizations. One was management consulting firm, one was more of a healthcare insurance company, and I worked in the hospital side as well as a private practice. And so there are a lot of different steps that you take in order to, connect with people and to be able to get the business objectives done. Part of that was learning how to manage the management of people. And
Yeah.
so my background is also in organizational behavior management.
Mm,
And so part of that is being able to just connect with people so that you can not only meet the objective of the organization, but also manage the people that surround the objective that need to be met.
yeah.
Um, and business is nothing but a collection of people working together for a common goal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So being able to work with people is a huge, huge benefit for anyone. And so
Yeah.
being able to teach them or train them on that is super important.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I mean, I work with a number of organizations as well, and you mentioned about anxiety, and it has got so many branches, to well-being, to mental health, to the performance of an organization, if you're looking at an organization, but all from a people perspective. So if I was a business or an individual, and looking to receive your services, what type of, how would the conversation between you and I sound like?
Okay. Well, I would first start with assessing what your needs are, and kind of see where you are. I like to meet people where they are so I can find out where we need to help them get to where they want to be. And so I would really assess, well, if I'm doing the clinical side, not the OBM, that's a little different. But if I'm doing the clinical side and addressing the anxiety itself, I will find out what type of anxiety that they have. There are different, people don't realize it's a different type of anxiety, what we call panic disorder or
Mhm.
panic attacks that happen versus anxiety attacks. They're two different things and they have two different ways in which they can be handled. But essentially, the way in which they manifest themselves in people's lives are the same. They have devastating impact. And so what I would want to do is find out, what impact is, well, first, what type of anxiety they have, and then how this has had an impact on their lives. And
Yeah.
then we can kind of go from there. It's really a matter of a give and take to find out what it is their needs are, and then we can provide and create a plan of how to, I guess essentially it's a plan of action, how to address those needs and how we can therefore get them to where they want to be.
Yeah. Excellent. Can you share a story or an experience that comes to your mind, that has resulted in a highly positive outcome based on all the great things that you're doing?
Well, so I have so many stories. Hard time
What,
kind
what,
of
what, what, what,
pinpointing one.
anyone in particular?
But yeah, right. So I do have so there was okay. So when I started my organization in 2016, and that was when I actually started my doctorate program for the most well, just a little bit before. And I had a mission in mind. I had an idea in mind of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to move forward with the organization. I planned it out. I put all the pieces in place and knew that this is what I wanted to do. But then life happens. I end up having a child, and there's a lot of different things going on, and so I had to put some of that on hold. But then what I found out was that the things that I've done, the help that I've given people in the past, came back to me. They started to reach out to me because I wasn't. I was kind of. I was running the organization, but not really. It was more like a hands-off thing. People were connecting with me because of what I said or what I've done, And sometimes I don't even remember some of the things that I said and done, but they did. And it had an impact on their lives. And that told me that, okay, I'm on the right track. I need to continue on with this. And I need to put aside any of the apprehensions I may have and just go forward. So I did. So I continued on with the organization that I created, I still have now. And the roadblocks that came to me, I had to deal with them myself. Then I realized maybe I need to have some other people to help me as well, because I can't be all things in all places in organizations. Um, Otherwise, it's just me trying to scramble to get things done and just do mediocre work. So I realized I was talking to one of my colleagues, former colleagues. She's now an executive coach herself, and she was saying, "Listen, two heads are better than one. Maybe you need to have someone who can be an expert in the areas that you are, lacking, in the areas that really will help you to grow." And so she made a good point. So I decided to look around and see if there were some people I could add as a team to my team of my organization to make it work better, faster, stronger, all those things. And it turns out that I was able to do that. Today, I have an excellent team, a social media company, I have a virtual assistant. I'm now hired on a PR company to kind of help spearhead things along, and it's been excellent. And really, it was a matter of me having to get out of my own way and change my mindset. I can't be everything with everyone at all times.
Yeah. What I liked about the story is it's the problem, but you also how you yourself actually shifted your ways
Yeah,
of managing it within your own mindset
I
and
had to.
using that executing it. Yeah, it's such a lovely experience there. So we are undergoing a number of things at the moment. Pandemic. We've got our economic situation as well,
Right.
and obviously that has got an impact on people. What challenges are you seeing as a result of that in the line of work that you're doing?
Well, so oddly enough, the pandemic has actually been beneficial to my industry, only because now for the first time we're finally getting a face put in a spotlight on mental health. And that's very, very important. We didn't have that before. It's been centuries since we've had really just a focus on purely on mental health. And what the pandemic did, unfortunately, was to, I mean, you cannot deny a lot of the depression, the anxiety, the things that people were experiencing and displaying because of being, isolated from other people and having to stay in all the time. And just the social emotional learning that the kids were not getting because they were not in school. Things like that really had an impact. They really needed to be addressed before, but now there's a spotlight on it. And so now people will see the difference. And now not only are people seeing the difference, but organizations are seeing the difference.
Yeah.
And not just for nonprofits, but for profits are starting to say, hey, we should do something about this. And let's go ahead and put some dollars behind it to make some changes that are necessary for our nation so that we, in our country, in our world, really, so that we can be better, not just physically, but mentally as well. So
Yeah.
I think that's huge. And there's always going to be some challenges, there's always going to be something. But honestly, this has had a huge impact on our industry. And it
Yeah.
really needs to be something that hopefully, once the angst of this all dies down, I hope it still remains something that's really important and forefront in people's minds.
Yeah, no, understood, and that's absolutely true. So let's just talk a little bit about you as well. I mean, like, what does the day in the life of Dr. Makida look like these days, morning to evening?
Well, very busy. That's why today I was actually able to do this podcast, so that was helpful. Typically, so I have two contracts and then I have my coaching practice. So I have my first contract is I do organizational behavior management work with a private company that specializes in mental health. And so I do a lot of work with them to just make sure that things are flowing as they should. And so sometimes I would get up and I would just emails, a lot of emails about what needs to happen, and set up meetings with people that need to address some key points and some highlights on what needs to happen for the organization to move forward. Right now, they're in transition. So we're trying to come up with ways that the transition will have a positive impact on the organization, but also the people who are transitioning. Because it goes to the mission of the organization to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves as well as the people, whether or not they're going to stay within the organization. The other contract I work on is a clinic in Baltimore, and it's strictly mental health. So I do a lot of one-on-ones and group work with the different patients that I see. I also have an assisted living center that I work with, and work with some of the physicians as well, nurses on staff there. So I'm doing a lot of that work is mostly geared towards dual diagnosis individuals. So kind of going back to my base when I first started psychology, I work with people who also have mental health as well as maybe substance abuse issues and things like that. And so I spent about the first half of my day probably doing OBM work. Second half of the day is mostly doing the clinical work at the clinic. And then at night, I sometimes see clients too. Like on Tuesday nights, like last night, I usually see clients until about 10 p.m. So I don't sleep. So it's usually very busy, but it's very rewarding. I really enjoy the work that I do. I always make sure that I spend time to kind of debrief for myself so that I can organize my business, make sure my team that I have now is doing their job and doing the best that they can. And I'm getting to follow up with the people that I need to follow up with to make sure that they're getting the help that they need.
Awesome. It's a very busy schedule that you've got. But
Pretty much.
it sounds like you're managing very, very well. Dr. Makida, we're coming to a close very shortly. Is there any closing messages or a challenge to other people or leaders or organizations that you want to highlight here?
Sure. Take my advice from early on when I started the organization. Two heads truly are better than one. Do not try and pretend that you can do everything and be all things to all people. None of us are gods here. We are people. And so we need to focus on the things that we are good at. Like I'm good at therapy. I'm good at coaching. That is what I'm good at. I may not always be good at social media management or, some things that really are outside of the purview of what I normally do. Really, if you want to grow and scale, the best way to grow and scale is when you have teams working with you that will really be and have your idea in mind and your mission in mind. And again, always stay with your mission because that's important. That'll always be your kind of guiding point wherever you go.
Yeah, words of wisdom from Dr. Makida Bey. Thank you very much for your insights, Dr. Makida. And thank you very much for being on the show.
No worries. Take care.
Wonderful. So, okay, folks, thank you very much for listening in, and stay tuned for our next episode where we hear from the Chief Customer Experience of a large firm and how they are bringing customers to the forefront on all aspects, people, process, and technology. Stay tuned for our next episode on this and continue to stay on to hear about exclusive offer. Hey, I hope you enjoy the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You're now seeing this part of the video, also because you consume some of my content, insights, and teachings. Maybe you've been to my LinkedIn page or website or seen other social media ads or listened to my podcast. I'm Stephen Paul, a business and transformational executive coach, strategic advisor, leader, and board member. I've been in diverse roles, corporate executive, entrepreneur, and worked with businesses and firms of all sizes, built and launched businesses, created high-impact boards, and so forth in 4 continents. I get it. I've been there, done that, but what is different is I bring a unique perspective and a playbook. I've helped 100+ business leaders just like you to scale and align their leadership top teams, the board, and overall business for growth. Leaders like Ivana from medium-sized company in the EU who grew 150% and expanded globally in under 5 months. After she started to work with me over facilitated sessions in an initial 3 days, I helped fine-tune their strategy and align their leadership team and board to be a cohesive driving force to achieve their dreams and outcomes. I want to teach you the same thing and more on how to scale and align your leadership team and board so you can increase your business growth and value. Get clarity on what is the next right strategy for you. There are multiple ways we can work with you. Number one, click the link for a free, non-obligatory 60-minute initial strategic session. Let's get a feel for your dreams, your vision, your challenges, and let me convert that into a route map for you where we can co-develop and co-pilot. Number two, enroll in an innovative and intuitive digital online course that I have created to help you transform. It's called Unshakable Resilience. It is the ultimate program for individuals and business leaders like you who want to be equipped at a personal and professional level to respond to any form of challenges or in crisis situations and take on opportunities with grit, resilience, and build a mindset of success. In essence, you want to be unshakable, thrive in crisis, take on opportunities in the face of adversity, and build a success mindset. So, click the link below to learn more on how I can personally help you individually and your firm to scale and align your leadership team and business and pivot in a transformational way. And for you to experience this, whatever the challenge you're facing, get in touch with me. Let's discuss, and I will share my insight rapidly to enable your transformation. Click the links below.